Isekai.
The Rebirth of the Malicious Empress of Military Lineage. Chapter 57, Officer Mo King. After class, Shen Yu walked to Shen Miao, and smiled as she said, "Today young lady Yi has invited eldest sister, and me to her residence, so we will not be heading back with you. Fifth younger sister, you should go back first." Yi Peilan and Shen Yu were naturally close with one another, and would often send an invitation to them, but excluded only Shen Miao. It was so common that it was nothing out of the ordinary. Hearing that, Shen Miao did not have any reaction, and only made a sound of agreement. These recent days the Shen family's attitude towards Shen Miao was extremely warm and lively, most likely because they already had a play in mind. Shen Miao was also too lazy to care about them now that there were matters of vital importance. Upon returning in the horse carriage, it must pass through the most prosperous street of Ding capital. Gu Yu said, "Gui Huafeng is in front. Does not young lady like the pastry from there the best? This servant will go and buy some back." "Go then," Shen Miao said with a smile. After Gu Yu got off the carriage, Jings opened the carriage's curtain to look out, and made a sound of a surprise after looking at a certain area. Shen Miao looked towards the direction of her gaze, and saw that the horse carriage stopped at the side of Gui Huafeng, in front of a pawn shop. At the moment there was a crowd of people who seemed to be arguing about something. The worker from the pawn shop showed signs of impatience, and even his voice could be heard clearly by Shen Miao. "I already said that it will be 12 liang, if you want to sell or not. It is just a sword. This gentleman better not trouble us." "It seems that shopkeeper Yu is not able to do business," Jings said. Shen Miao had seen it through. A pawn shop was a business, and naturally, it would push the price down a little, and this would make the person who came to pawn their items unable to accept the prices, but still unwilling to leave, thus turning into a deadlock situation. There is nothing worth looking at. Seeing that Shen Miao's gaze moved, Jings put the curtain down. After a short moment, Gu Yu carried a large paper bag back, and Jings opened the curtain to let her in. During the short time of opening the curtain, Shen Miao's gaze landed outside the carriage, and saw that the person who was arguing with the pawn shop's worker turned around and walked out from the crowd, and he had a sword in his arms. Most likely, he did not make the transaction, and was disappointed. When Gu Yu boarded the carriage, she wanted to close the carriage's curtain, but it was stopped by Shen Miao as she was staring attentively at the person who was carrying the sword. It was a young man, and his attire was also common like his looks. Seeing their young lady staring at this unfamiliar male, Gu Yu and Jings were unable to make head or tail of it. Shen Miao frowned. Why was this person so familiar? That young man shook his head, and sighed before looking deeply at the sword in his embrace. He clenched his teeth, and turned to head towards the pawn shop. Seemingly he finally decided to make this unsatisfying transaction. Gu Yu. Just at the moment when he turned, Shen Miao suddenly shouted, "Go down, and stop him. Tell him that I want that sword of his." "Young lady." Jings and Gu Yu looked at her in surprise. They did not know why did Shen Miao do this for. Quickly, Shen Miao coldly said. Seeing her serious look, Gu Yu did not dare to ask more, and immediately jumped off the carriage, and headed towards that young person. When the young person took a step, he could hear someone behind him speaking, "Gentlemen, do hold on." He turned around, and saw a female clad in a maid's uniform rushing towards him before smiling. "Is gentleman going to the pawn shop to pawn the sword that you are holding?" The young person was startled for a moment, but did not conceal it, and said, "Yes." That female continued speaking. "As it turns out, "My young lady wants the sword that you are holding. Is gentleman willing to go ahead with this transaction?" The young person looked at the other person, and even though he saw that the female's expression was not fake, he still shook his head. "This sword of mine is not the refined type, and is more on the practical side. If your young lady wants, it is better to go to the weaponry shop to forge one." He was amazed in his heart as to how would normal females be interested in swords. It was nothing more than seeing it as a toy to play with. Unfortunately, his sword was too sharp, and it would not be good to accidentally hurt oneself. Gu Yu's expression became slightly relaxed, and her heart sighed in relief. This person in front needed money, but, to even think first for the sake of others, it seems that he was also an above-board person. Previously, when Shen Miao oddly wanted to buy this person's sword, she was somewhat worried, but now it seemed that the other person was not someone bad. Thinking of this, Gu Yu's expression was much softer as she said, "My young lady sincerely wants to make this transaction with gentlemen. Gentlemen may wish to take a step aside to talk." The other person most probably did not expect that Gu Yu was this stubborn. Glancing at the pawnshop, he then nodded helplessly, "All right then." Until they reached an alley without anyone, one could see a carriage stopped in the middle of it. Gu Yu went to the front of the carriage, and softly said, "Young lady, he is here." The young person walked to the front of the carriage, and hesitated before finally cupping his hands. "This young lady, this subject's sword is not suitable for females to use, and it is far too sharp, thus it would easy to injure oneself." "It is. What is your name?" His words hardly finished when a female voice was heard from the carriage. This voice sounded like the person's age was not old, but there was an unspeakable feeling, as if it was a noble who had experienced many ups and downs of life, making one unable to figure out the person's age in a short moment of time. "This subject is Mo King." After hesitating for a moment, the young person cupped one of his fists in the other hand. After this sentence, there was no response after a long time. Just when that young man, Mo King, and Gu Yu were somewhat puzzled, the female voice from inside said, "I am not interested in your sword. It is just broken iron for me, and has no meaning." Hearing those words, a trace of anger appeared on Mo King's face, and he spoke. "Could it be that young lady is playing with Mo King? Even though this sword is average, but it was forged by a famous swordsman, and has accompanied me for many years. If young lady called this one here to insult, then forgive this one for not playing along." After finishing his words, he wanted to turn and leave, but, when he lifted his leg, he heard a sigh that came out from the horse carriage. That sigh was lightly floating past, but seemed to contain inexplicable emotions, pulling one's heart. "Mo King, you are really short on money," the person in the horse carriage said. Mo King was surprised for a moment. He did not know why, but, when the other person called his name, there was a strange feeling that arose in his heart. This feeling seemed to feel very familiar. There was some unfathomable mystery to it. But, at the moment when he hears the other person speak, his footsteps could not help but automatically stop, as every single word that person say was something he could not refuse. "Your sword, to me, is not worth a mention. But your sword skills are, however, worth hundred thousands of gold." Mo King was stumped for words as he shook his head. "Young lady has flattered. This subject is only an ordinary person." His heart was however surprised. How did this person know that his sword skills were outstanding? A hero without a dime is not a hero at all. To even sell away one's precious sword that accompanied one for so many years. These kinds of days would be unworthy of your sword skills. The curtain on the horse carriage suddenly opened, and out walked a purple-clad young female. Her looks were tender and delicate, but there was a type of rare extravagance and dignity in her brows. "Mo King, are you willing to sell your entire body filled with martial arts skills to our Shen family of military lineage?" she asked with a smile, but her eyes had a touch of joy like meeting an old friend. The commanding officer of the guards, Mo King of the previous lifetime. "Trust that you were well since we last met,"